Hanny Time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Sandegriff.
And we welcome you into the Hanny Time. Just finished doing the Hanny Cast. Just dropped that. That is 1045ESPN.com. Gordy and I did a year in review for LSU football. You want to check that out on the Hanny Cast. Hey, look, at least I've got my uniform on, right? Okay, didn't forget the uniform. Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp. You guys, you got all your – can we start on time? Do we not have to start with a technical foul?
Yes, everybody has the proper clothes on.
Okay, that's a good start today. Behind every Aggie joke, there's just a wee bit of truth.
There's a lot of those going around right now.
Palmer's going to have a field day with that. But I'll leave that for him. Texas A&M forgot their jerseys last night. They got a technical foul before the game started against Florida last night, which is like the most Aggie thing ever. I'm gonna save it. It may make an appearance next Wednesday in a certain segment that we anyway. The good news today, this morning came out just a little while ago, is regarding Damar Hamlin's status. The Bills released an update this morning that he has improved over the past day. They called it remarkable improvement, which is fantastic. His agent also told the Associated Press that Hamlin is awake and able to grip hands of his family members that are there. That is all fantastic news. So a great update, and hopefully that will continue. We're going to talk about the weekend's games in the NFL. Chris Rosvoglou will be with us in about 15 minutes from Boot Crew Media. The Saints wrap up their 2022 season against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday at the Superdome. At the bottom of the hour, Oleh Kosel from the Bird Writes. We'll talk about the win last night by the Pels over the Rockets, 119-108. First game without Zion Williamson. They'll be without him for a while. We'll get to all of that, but the story I want to start with is the one, and this came out just when we got off the air yesterday, so I've had a day to kind of let this breathe a little bit. They haven't made it official yet, but Texas A&M is going to hire Bobby Petrino to be their offensive coordinator. This is just delicious, okay? This is just absolutely delicious. First of all, with Petrino, he was at UNLV for a month. He had been at Missouri State. He'd done a good job at Missouri State. Got them into the playoffs twice. They hadn't been in the playoffs in 30 years. Took a job over with Barry Odom at UNLV, was there for about 15 minutes, and, Bobby Petrino's not loyal to anybody but Bobby Petrino. So as soon as A&M called with what I'm certain is a very lucrative contract, he was out the door. That's what Bobby Petrino does. Bobby Petrino is one of the easiest personalities, coaches, players, whatever you want to call it, in sports to handicap. You know exactly what you're getting with Bobby Petrino. You are getting a brilliant offensive mind, a creative play caller, an offensive innovator. The coaching part has never been in question. And as a human being, you're getting a scumbag. Just as simple as you can put it. Somebody who is always out for himself, somebody who is enormously selfish, someone who cannot be trusted, and someone who is highly combative. He's just not a very likable person. Todd McClure, who's a good friend and was a great player in the league for a long time, and working with Todd did the postgame with us for a number of years. Todd McClure is one of the 5 nicest people you will ever meet. It is very difficult to get him to say anything derogatory about anybody. He will talk your ear off about what a scumbag Bobby Petrino is, because he was the coach of the Falcons when Todd was there for the 13 games or whatever that he was in there. And I take Todd at his word. He's pretty passionate about it when he talks about it, but it's very easy to see. Bobby Petrino, for almost his entire career, has been a play caller, and so has Jimbo Fisher. these are two what you would call alpha dogs when it comes to running their offense. This is going to be one of two things. This is going to be one of the most dynamic, creative, explosive offenses you've ever seen, or it's going to be a train wreck. And I don't think that there's going to be much in between. What I can envision is Jimbo Fisher giving up the whole reins to his offense to somebody who does something as drastically different that Bobby Petrino does when he runs an offense and not wanting to hold control. I've actually seen this movie before, and if you're an LSU fan of any time, you have too, when Jimbo was on the other side of this equation in 2005 and 2006. He was the play caller, but Les Miles, who had called his own plays for most of his, leading up to coming to LSU, not most of his career, but in the time leading up to his time at LSU, had called the plays, did not want to give up control of his offense. And we watched that tug of war for 2 years. And that was a team of breathtaking offensive talent. We're talking about first-round picks up and down the board. And those two guys went 15 rounds every Saturday afternoon, the most glaring of which probably the 2006 game against Auburn, and specifically in the second half of that thing. Jimbo wanted to do certain things, and Les wouldn't give it up. Every time we saw Les Miles with a play chart in his back pocket, we got nervous. We saw it firsthand. Jimbo wanted to run it, and Les wouldn't let him. Not all the time. And when they went head-to-head, head coach won. And, Jimbo eventually moved on. And that's what's going to happen here. Actually, they could both lose. But when they come to a disagreement about something, and I would imagine that knowing these two guys, having covered these two guys, okay, and we got to know Jimbo really well when he was here. I don't know Petrino other than the press conferences that he's been in when he's been here, but if you would ask me a week ago, I don't know that these two guys could agree that today is Thursday. I can't see this working. Let me tell you what I think happened, okay? Somebody at Texas A&M, because they were frustrated and couldn't fire Jimbo because he makes too much money, told him, you have to bring in an offensive coordinator. We can't fire you, but we're going to force you to make an offensive coordinator hire. And you can't go get somebody from Appalachian State who's been a GA that you can come in here and bully, because you're not going to bring in an offensive coordinator in name only and then call all the plays and just ignore whatever the guy says. No, we need somebody who we think you are going to value their opinion, or somebody who has a personality that is so domineering that they are going to make you listen to them. Well, what about Bobby Petrino? Yeah, that would work. Okay, go get him. And Jimbo was forced to hire him. That's what I think, okay? I don't have inside information from anybody over there. I don't know Jimbo Fisher well enough to call him and say, hey, look, I mean, I know him, but I don't know him well enough to call him and say, hey, man, what's the inside scoop here? So I don't want to act like I'm breaking any insight. This is my opinion only. They forced him to do this. And these two guys are not going to be able to agree on how best to run an offense, and Jimbo's not going to turn it loose. The same way Les would never really turn it loose. You've coached one way your entire career, and then they tell you got to coach a different way. I have a hard time seeing this work. Now, the pity is for Texas A&M that if these two guys, who have very different philosophies on offense, but who have both been very successful in their careers, could come together and get along, you could really do something tremendously creative here. You could do something that would maybe send shockwaves through the conference. And they've got enough talent on that team. They think they found a quarterback at the end of the season. Who knows? But I think the probability is so much more for an implosion. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be entertaining. This will not be boring in any way. But I just see Les with that play chart in his back pocket, and stuck in his pants. And every now and then, you reach back there and he pull the play chart out, and you go, okay, here comes toss lead. We know what's coming next. I was on the sideline once for an LSU spring game. Now, this is a spring game, and a lot of this stuff is scripted, and I don't want to make too big. I've told this story before, but this is when Gary Croton was the offensive coordinator. And they were running something down by the goal line, and we were close enough, and there weren't very many people there, so you could hear kind of what was going on. And they let us stand on the sidelines, and Les is, on the deal, and he says, yeah, I want 42 here, meaning Michael Ford. And so the play comes in, and it's a run to Michael Ford. Is it? Yeah, run whatever you want as long as it's 42. I'll remember that forever. Run whatever you want as long as it's 42. This is how you get around is the offensive coordinator calling the plays? Yeah, man, he call whatever he wants as long as it's, Michael Ford. Well, so is he really calling the play? Les, did you call the play? No, I didn't. I'm not calling the plays. Gary's calling the plays. Well, as long as he calls the plays I tell him to. When I got engaged to my wife, I said, in the interest of us ever being able to go on a trip anytime in our marriage, given the work schedule, we can get married any month you want as long as it's July. That's kind of what it is. You can run any play you want here as long as it's Michael Ford. Jimbo Fisher. And I'm not talking about certain points in the game where all head coaches tell their offensive coordinator, hey, we got a 2-score lead, run the football with 4 minutes to go or 6 minutes to go or however much time to go, or you have a 3rd down and 12 from the 42-yard line, and the head coach tells you, you've got 2 plays here. We're going to go for it on 4th down. We're in the kind of that no man. I'm not talking about that stuff. That stuff is necessary. That stuff happens everywhere. I'm talking about you can run whatever play you want as long as it's a pass to the tight end. You can run whatever play you want as long as it's a running play to the right side with this back. Pick any one you want. That's what I see happening here. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but it's going to be entertaining. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll talk with Chris Rosvoglou as the Saints get ready to wrap up their season. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
At Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge, starting out in 2023. Right now, you got 3.9% APR for 60 months on most of your models. $1,000 loyalty cash on your MDX and your TLXs coming back. All 2023 models come with 2 years and 24,000 miles scheduled maintenance that's on all of your 2023s. Large selection certified pre-owns right now. Up to your 162-point inspection, 7 years, 100,000-mile powertrain coverage. Roadside assistance is included. Your first scheduled maintenance is free. Complimentary vehicles during your maintenance, which is my favorite of all of the benefits that you get from an Acura certified pre-owned vehicle. Transparency in prices and a family atmosphere. It's why we continue to buy our vehicles from Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Before we begin any electrical work here, we perform a home safety check that begins at your electrical panel to make sure that you and your family are safe. For all your upgrades, installations, and repairs, call Mr. Electric.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there. What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are.
Jimmy Ott and Charles Henegriff for the Thursday evening edition of Game Time presented by Bet Rivers. We're downtown at Jolly Pearl Oyster Bar on north facing Town Square. Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. presented by Bet Rivers on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Henegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Tuck Pels at the bottom of the hour as they beat Houston last night. Right now, we bring in Chris Rosvoglou from Boot Crew Media covering the New Orleans Saints. Chris, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
You know, we gave the update on Damar Hamlin at the top of the show, and the news was very good this morning. Chris, I'm wondering what you took away from yesterday, because the Saints were – There was media availability yesterday. That's normal, but it was anything but a normal day, because there was really, from what I was able to gather, not much talk about football, and certainly not much talk, if at all, about Carolina and the season ending. The Damar Hamlin situation has shook the entire National Football League up, and I'm just wondering what your takeaways were from yesterday, given that.
Yeah, I think, with the way, the Saints and most teams have handled, whether it's media availability, whether it's, having the proper support, not just physically, but mental health-wise for the players, I think it's the right approach, absolutely, for two reasons. One, this is kind of uncharted territory for everyone. We've really never seen a situation kind of like this unfold on an NFL field, but it's also kind of the reality standpoint that sets in, and that everyone has to realize that, yeah, there is an entertainment value that comes with football. It gives us a lot of talk about, but at the end of the day, they're all human, and I think the Saints and most teams around the league have done, an incredible job of making sure that their players are taken care of mentally, and when the time comes to lace up their cleats and get back on the field, they'll do that. But it's tough to kind of just 24 hours later, 48 hours later, just kind of say, okay, back to the game. It kind of seems insensitive to do so. So I think, all the teams, especially the Saints, have done a great job with it.
It reminds that, and I work, here with Jacob Hester, who, would remind me all the time, hey, listen, it's a fraternity of players. We compete against each other, and, there are players that, like each other, some don't like each other, but at the end of the day, we all realize what we're putting at risk here. And so that fraternity, really, I think, showed up this week. Whether it be Mike McCarthy saying yesterday, no, we're not all right. We're really struggling with this. He brought in some people to speak to the team. So did Dennis Allen talk about, any external people he might have brought in to talk to the team? I know they've got counselors available for him, but anybody in particular?
I haven't heard about anyone in particular, but I know the Saints have done a good job of letting their players know that if they do need that, it will be available. And I think the one thing that does help for the Saints is, they're a team in particular that has a very strong locker room with guys like Demario Davis and guys like Cam Jordan, who obviously this is a totally different situation for them. But when it comes to being able to support your teammates, to kind of rally the troops when you need to, they're able to. But I would imagine with, the rest of this season coming up with one more game, and obviously the players don't really go full off-season mode until a couple of weeks after, I'd imagine they'd have the support they need from the staff if needed. The Saints they've shown time and time again they could be a first-class organization.
All right, let's talk about the football because over the last, the Saints have finally put together a win streak. And, in particular during this streak, Chris, the defense has really maybe played the way we thought they would play from the very beginning of the season. So when you look at this stretch, and really you can kind of go back to the Raider game, the defense has been pretty sound most of the back half of the season. What specific things can you point to for that evolution?
Yeah, I think part of it is kind of the pass rush getting revitalized. And I think the Saints still need to beef up that defensive line in the offseason. It's a group that I think needs a lot of improvement. But players like Carl Granderson over the last couple of weeks really taken a step. You have Cam Jordan, who even at this stage in his career, he had 3 sacks against the Eagles. He continues to produce. Players like Caden Ellis have kind of taken that next step, and I'd imagine he'll get paid this offseason either by the Saints or by one of the other 31 teams. So they've really stepped up. And I think another thing for the Saints is the secondary. Obviously, the return of Marshawn Lattimore, we saw how big that was last week. But Tyrann Mathieu, who received a lot of criticism early, I think he's been really good the last couple of weeks of the season. And obviously for New Orleans, I think a good job for them is kind of making sure they make teams one-dimensional. And outside of the Falcons game, I think you've seen them been able to stop the run, right? You look at an Eagles attack that has really run over teams this year. That didn't happen. You go to the Browns game in those tough conditions. Didn't really let Nick Chubb, run for 100-plus yards like many people thought would happen. So I think they're tightening up in certain areas, and I think that's one of the main reasons why when the Saints probably announce later this year that Dennis Allen's coming back, it'll be because his defense really stepped up over the last 5 to 6 games.
And I want to get to Dennis Allen in a minute, but I want to ask you about another player because the other thing that's happened in the second half of this season that's a tremendous positive moving forward is the emergence of Rashid Shaheed. Chris, I'll be honest with you. He has gone in my mind from somebody that was a nice story and a nice fill-in to somebody that, hey, this guy maybe stick around, to next year, this guy needs to be a big, big part of what they're doing. Just over the course of maybe 6 or 7 weeks, this guy has gone from somebody nobody knew who he was to a guy I think that they're going to really have a major role for next year.
Oh, I think there's no doubt about it. And, with Rashid Shaheed early on when you saw, the Bengals game where he had a big touchdown, had a touchdown against the Cardinals, it was kind of that one flashy play, and then that was it. And that's not his fault. I think the usage was a little off at first, but you mentioned the last month of the season against Philly. He was targeted 6 times. He caught all 6 targets for 70-plus yards. He had 4 receptions for 40-plus yards in that tough game against the Browns. You think of the Falcons game at over 90 yards, had a touchdown from Taysom Hill. I think of the Bucs game. Obviously, the offense struggled to move the ball and score touchdowns, but he had over 70 receiving yards. He has become a big play threat who also has the ability to make tough contested catches, and he's been really helpful on crossing routes throughout this season. And I think this is the type of player, to your point, you start off saying, okay, you bring up special teams, then you bring up that big play threat, and then you start to realize he's not just the home run hitter that he could be. This is a legitimate wide receiver who, depending on how he finishes Week 18, he'll probably finish with over 500 yards, and that's a pretty impressive feat considering he really didn't get fully involved till I'd say the end of November.
Yeah, and, I say that in the vein of they have some decisions to make. Obviously, a lot of salary decisions. If you think that Rashid Shaheed is going to be a big part of this offense next year, and I certainly do, then maybe you start thinking about moving on from Jarvis Landry, who was not able to stay on the field nearly as much as they wanted to. And I think the same thing at tight end, where Juwan Johnson has really emerged. And so are you going to move on from Adam Troutman? I don't – those decisions are, for the offseason, which is almost here. But those are some positive things where you could see these young players that are – really stepping up that can give you a future with this. Let's talk about Allen now. It was just a couple of weeks ago we were talking about, is he coming back, or, does this Sean Payton thing have legs? Is there another coach out there that they might be eyeing to? Is it pretty much a done deal? He is definitely coming back next year.
It kind of seems like it's leaning towards it's definite. Now, the only reason I say, never say never is we've seen crazier things happening in the NFL, and the weird thing for me is, we talked about this Sean Payton thing multiple times, and, there just aren't a lot of jobs opening up right now. I think, by now people would have thought there's like 6 definite jobs opening up. And, you look around the league and, you can argue that maybe the Panthers keep Steve Wilkes, or, maybe the Broncos go in a different direction. They've been linked to guys like Harbaugh. So I think maybe we keep the door open slightly that there is that option. But I would say right now, if I had to, just put a prediction on it, I think there's about a 90% chance that Dennis Allen will be back. It might be even greater than 90, and I think it's for 2 reasons. He never lost the locker room, despite going 4-9 at one point, and the defense, which is supposed to be his bread and butter, it's starting to look like that over the last month. And I think for the Saints, they could say, hey, the division's not going to be that great again next year. We can't possibly be more injured than we were this season, so let's run it back, maybe change up some things like the quarterback room. You talked about the pass catchers. Maybe you mix up that group a little bit, get a little younger. So I would expect Dennis Allen to be back, and I'd kind of be surprised if it was anything but that.
Do you think we'll hear from Mickey Loomis next week, kind of a state of the franchise type of thing? Since Sean Payton got there and continuing with Allen, they have let the coach speak. The owners have almost never spoken in public. Dennis Laucher, the president, almost never speaks about the team in public. And Mickey Loomis, as the general manager, rarely speaks. But do you think we'll hear something next week?
I think it would be the smart thing to do for the Saints. And there's a lot of people who have been asking questions, and, a lot of the frustration kind of gets pointed at Dennis Allen. But I think, obviously, this is going to be a huge offseason for Mickey Loomis for 2 reasons. Because, A, he's probably going to have to put his faith in Dennis Allen. And then, B, how do you kind of restructure this roster? Because you still are in that, hey, competing now, maybe win a division title. But I think for Mickey Loomis, this has been an up and down year. And for him, if you kind of want to settle everyone down and make sure everyone's kind of, level-headed going into the offseason, it would be wise. And I'll put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the announcement. But if not, I could also see maybe DA stepping up to the mic and doing something.
Yeah, and by the way, that's not a criticism. When the coach is the face of the franchise and does 90% of the talking, I'm fine with that. I don't need to hear from the owners and the general manager every week, but every now and then, it's probably a good idea to do an "I'm okay, you're okay" kind of thing. Chris, we've appreciated your contributions to the show all throughout the season. We'll talk next week, kind of the postscript of the 2022 and where they're heading as we move towards the draft. Thank you so much for all your time.
Thank you for having me.
Chris Rosvoglou from Boot Crew Media. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Oleh Kosel from the Bird Rights. We'll talk about the Pels winners last night against the Rockets and the red-hot Brooklyn Nets coming to town tomorrow night. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
And our folks over at Big Mike's with live music resuming this week. Tonight, it'll be Jovan Webb on stage. Tomorrow night, Alex Hebert, and they'll also have some karaoke going on tomorrow night. And Saturday, the I-10 bound band on the stage at Big Mike's. Sunday, the final regular season game for the New Orleans Saints. It's happy hour drink prices all day at Big Mike's starting at 11 a.m. We love it at Big Mike's. Great food, tremendous atmosphere, wonderful place to stop in after work, meet with friends, have a cocktail, have a good meal right there in the heart of Denham Springs. Even Denham Springs Hall of Fame located right up at the front of Big Mike's. Located on Aspen, Big Mike's were kind of a big deal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Time doesn't stop, and the world keeps spinning. Community, culture, and communications, the powerful circle that connects us together. We're creating the next evolution, a network built for every possibility, moving faster than ever before, streaming us forward into the future. And the revolution is closer than you think. RTC, ETEL, and Vision are now Rev. New name, same company.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Up on Friday's OTB. Congrats, you've made it to the weekend. And we'll preview the weekend that will be. As the Saints look to close out strong, the basketball teams at LSU look to keep it rolling. Let's have ourselves a day. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hanny Time, your sports break during your lunch break with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Pels win last night, 119-108 against the Rockets, run their record to 24-14. The Nets coming to town tomorrow night, and our friend Oleh Kosel from the Bird writes, spent a few minutes with us. Oleh, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, Charles. How about yourself on this new year?
Fantastic. The news of the Zion Williamson injury hit hard, but if there's one thing about this team that we've learned is they have been able to roll without a full complement of players. The depth on this team is very, very good. So your first look last night with no Brandon Ingram, no Zion Williamson, tell me what you saw.
Well, we saw what we had seen previously when both of those guys have been out, which was a team kind of coming together, C.J. McCollum leading them, Jonas providing what he does, but then also having a couple role players really step up. And last night, it was really Najee Marshall, Trey Murphy, and Jose Alvarado finally found his shooting stroke. So when the Pelicans seem to get contributions from, say, 4 or 5 guys every night, they feel like they've got a great chance to win. And so that's been kind of their model this season, Charles. So even though, no Zion, no Brandon Ingram, in years past, that would have been, flat out destructive to the Pels' chances of winning. But now they can survive it. And, you don't have to look any further than their 5-1 record when both of those guys are out.
I want to talk about 2 players in particular. The first one, and Mario, I want to play this from Willie Green. This was after the game last night on Valanciunas' role changing without Zion Williamson in the lineup.
It's extremely important, and JV's role now, it sort of increases. And he's had to make one of the biggest adjustments on our team now that, Z has been here with us. So we got to kind of move the chess pieces a little bit more and, find areas where we can throw the ball down to JV and let him go to work and create offense for us as well.
17 rebounds last night, Ollie. So, at first glance, Jonas knows what he's got to do here.
Absolutely. He's always going to have to be able to rebound. That's something that Pels desperately need from him every time he's out there. But it's the scoring that comes and goes depending on when Zion's there. When everybody's healthy, he's the 4th option on offense, and he'll be lucky to get maybe 10, 11 shots a game. But when Zion's out, they desperately need that paint scoring from him because he's kind of the backup plan. The Pelicans' strength, of course, is pounding in the paint, and when Zion's not there, somebody else has to pick up that slack. And guess what? Jonas is pretty darn good at it. So he's somebody I want to see the Pelicans keep in the long term because, let's face it, Zion's always apt to miss 20, 25, 30 games a season, it seems like. So you need a good backup plan, and Jonas fills that role perfectly.
Yeah, there's also a number that I really like about Jonas, and that number is 0. That comes under the column of games missed, 0. Mm-hmm. He's the only Pelican that's played all 38. The other player is Jackson Hayes, Ollie, because, just here in the last, 4 or 5 games, he has, carved out a role again. Maybe it was by necessity, but it always seems with Jackson Hayes, it's kind of feast or famine. But at least over the last couple of games, he's, carved out a role here.
He has, and, he's done it every season, right? Disappears from the rotation, comes back, and at some point he gives you productive minutes. And the Pelicans definitely need him now. Larry Nance was another one that they lost in addition to Zion Williamson, and that's when Jackson got his opportunity right before Christmas. And since then, I'll tell you what, he's looked good, so he should stay in that rotation, especially now, right, with Zion out at least 3 weeks, and it sounds like it's going to be for longer. So Jackson, he'll give you that scoring, right? Fantastic efficiency around the rim. But lately, you know what I've loved? I like that we're seeing some of that shot blocking prowess that we've always wanted to see for years.
Yeah.
He in Philly, he came up with 2 big blocks in a quarter. We saw it again last night. So if he can give you something on both ends and of course help you defensively at the rim, well, that's the Pelicans' biggest need, I feel like. So he's got a roll, 20, 25 minutes, and he'll be able to help this team for sure.
Give me your read on the severity of Zion's injury. I hated to say it this way yesterday, but when they said 3 weeks, I just assumed 6, and 6 weeks get you to the All-Star break. I hope he's back before then, but given what the Pelicans usually tell you about injuries and how it usually happens, I'm sorry, I'm just always going to err on the side of it's going to be longer than they tell us.
And you should when it comes to Zion because they've always treated him with kid gloves, and there's absolutely no reason to change now, right? When you're sitting close to the top of the Western Conference standings, you shouldn't rush him back. I mean, look what happened with the Phoenix Suns. They pushed Devin Booker, who is battling a hamstring strain, came back for the Pelicans game, and now he's going to miss at least a month, it looks like, because he retweaked it. Paul George is suffering from a groin strain. So these things linger. Anybody that knows hamstring strains know that it takes a long time for them to heal up to where you're really feeling 110%. So I'm with you. I don't think we're going to see Zion until about right around the All-Star break, and I think that's a smart move.
All right, let me shift it now to Brandon Ingram, who has returned to do some on-court work this week. What's the latest that you have heard on his prognosis?
Yeah, so Brandon originally was supposed to miss, say, about 2 to 3 weeks. He was supposed to come back when the Pelicans went on that 4-game road trip out west, right, where they went to Utah and Phoenix. and dropped, that had that 4-game losing streak. But he suffered a setback at that point. So they had to shut off from all that activity he was doing, that ramping up activity. Well, now he's back to doing that after taking a couple of weeks off, and it looks like this time it looks more promising. So I think we're going to get a chance to see him pretty soon, right? Knock on wood, but I think maybe in about 7 days or so. So maybe a couple more games he'll miss, then he'll be hopefully back in the lineup.
You think he goes on the road trip? I mean, it's a 5-game road trip,
Yes.
I think, starting.
Yeah, it's a 5-game road trip. Yeah, Charlie, because he's been traveling with the team, so he's been working out while away from the team, away from the city when he's had that opportunity. So, yeah, I fully expect him to be on this road trip.
All right, tomorrow night I think is going to be a lot of fun. The Nets did finally lose. They had won 12 in a row. They lost to the Bulls. But like Mario was telling me during the break, I just want Jose Alvarado to get Kyrie one time. Just get under his skin. I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch tomorrow night. What are you expecting from New Orleans and Brooklyn?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but Alvarado said back in July when he made an appearance on NBA TNT show during the playoffs that he wanted to get Kyrie out of all the players he hadn't gotten yet. So, yeah, we'll be looking for that. But you're right. I'm looking forward to this matchup. There's nobody playing basketball better than the Nets for the last 6 weeks, and I'm sure they're going to have revenge on their minds because the opening game, the Pelicans beat them by 22. So, yeah, the Nets, I'm telling you what, they're going to be a stiff test for a team, of course, missing B.I. and Zion, but don't count out these Pelicans. They've had some big wins, right? I mean, they beat Luka Doncic and the Mavericks early in the season when they didn't have both of those guys. And like I said, they're 5-1 without those two players. So I love the fact that this game's going to be at home, Charles, because we know they're formidable, right? 17-4 to start this season, so they've got a chance. So that crowd really does give them kind of a sixth man. So if Trey, Najee give you what they've been doing in the absence of the big guns, they're going to be right there because that defense usually does clamp down, even though the Nets' best firepower in the business, right? With Durant leading the team, I still think the Pels will have a chance to win despite all that's going to be up against them.
Oleh, not only that, but if I had a vote, I would vote Jacques Vaughn Coach of the Year right now. I know he didn't start the season as the head coach. He took over, I think it was 6 games in. He gets my vote right now. That was a dumpster fire. Forget about the talent. Just getting those egos to mesh between the owner, the general manager, the then head coach, and your superstars. I mean, Nash couldn't even get them to practice when they didn't want to. And Vaughn has unleashed all of the potential that they had. He's corralled it all, and he's got them all working in the same direction. Now you're seeing the Brooklyn Nets, when they put this team together originally with Kyrie and Durant, were the favorites, I think, or the second favorites to win the NBA title. And then just for a year and a half, it was a disaster. He's done, I think, a remarkable job.
Yeah, he deserves to be applauded, and your argument's completely understandable. For me, Willie Green will still get the nod, but it's only because I see what Jacques Vaughn has had to work with compared to Nash. For instance, Ben Simmons, he's finally gotten his feet wet, right? It was going to take him a month or so. Just like remember Zion's first few weeks back this season to where he was right before he got hurt. It takes players that have missed a year and a half, whatever the case may be, some time to get back to form. So Ben Simmons, he's a vastly different player now. They also didn't have a lot of the shooters, right? Joe Harris, Steph Curry were out. So I don't want to make excuses because I know Jacques Vaughn's done a great job. Because you're right, to manage a team like that, you've got to be able to handle those egos, and Nash just wasn't on the same page as those guys. So Vaughn does deserve credit for it. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to know what you can do about the Lakers winning too many games because last night was completely aggravating. I mean, the whole team is out and they won anyway. Oleh, what do you make of the state of the Lakers? We've been watching. Everybody knows why the Pelicans fans are watching because of the pick. But what do you make of the Lakers? I guess near term, near future prospects, knowing that they're not going to have Anthony Davis for a while.
I think they're going to remain mediocre. I know they've gone, 10-10 in their last 20, and it's all been because of their offense. Behind the Brooklyn Nets' number one offense over the last 6 weeks sits the Lakers at number 2. So they're scoring a lot of points, and I think it's because the role players are finally in the right roles. Russell Westbrook, remember when everybody's trying to start him? Well, Darvin Ham finally got through to him that you're going to be a reserve, and guess what? He's taken off in that role. So whether LeBron plays or not, I feel like the guys are executing because they're in the right roles. Dennis Schroeder being the starter, and then you've got Lonnie Walker, who's looking a little bit more confident. like I said, if you just get 10 points and whatever else the guys should be bringing to the table for the Lakers, than they are, well, like I said, they've become an average team. And I don't know, is that good enough to get in the play-in tournament? It might be, because they're now, one game behind the Utah Jazz, have been falling down the standings in the loss column. So that play-in tournament, I think, honestly, they can get to it. But, of course, they can't have Anthony Davis miss the whole year, right? So let's see if he gets back, because if he doesn't, then it's going to be tough, right, for LeBron. He's 38. You can't expect him to play every game here on out. So I don't know. They're playing better, right, compared to what they were at the start of the season. But let's just see what transpires over the next month or so. I'm sure they're going to need more than just what they've got on the floor right now.
Ham's coaching too well. We need to get him out of there. He's doing too good of a job. Oleh, we always appreciate your time. Enjoy the game tomorrow night, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. You take care and have a good weekend.
Oleh Kosel from the Bird Rights. You want to keep up with the Pelicans? The Bird Rights is a fantastic site. A lot of good nuggets in there for Pels fans. We'll take a break, come back, take some of your questions out of the chat. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Problems with staffing? If you're a business owner, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Getting employees that are qualified, that you can do a background check on, that you can get through an interview process with. Well, it's time-consuming. It's frustrating. Tiger Labor and Staffing can help you out with all of this stuff. They can screen, train, get all of your employment expenses corralled, help with your onboarding, so you don't have to worry about no-show interviews. You don't have to worry about unqualified applicants. Whether you need somebody for a day, a week, or a month, you can control your labor expenses, increase your flexibility. If you don't want to do seasonal hiring, it can help you out there. And the temp to hire option is only 60 days. That's the lowest in the industry. If you're looking for a job, Tiger Labor and Staffing welcomes skilled and unskilled labor. They'll match you with a job that fits, get you paid in a hurry. Get your work done without the worries. With Tiger Labor and Staffing, success begins with the eye of the tiger. Go to tigerlabor.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Master Elite.
Hey, son, join me 1 to 3 on Thursday. We'll chat with Luke Johnson about the black and gold and get ready to paint the picture for the NFL playoffs. On Palmer Show, 1 to 3 weekdays, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Kind of waxing nostalgic in the chat here with a couple of these questions, but I like this. One of them is, will the Les Miles era eventually see some redemption? There's a bad habit around here, and I'm probably guilty of a little bit of it, but there's a bad habit around here for when people leave, they become a lot worse than what they were. I find this a lot with Jerry DiNardo, that Jerry DiNardo gets lumped into the Curly Holman discussion. And I'm here to tell you, I lived through both of them, and there's just no comparison, okay? DiNardo was 5 times the coach that Holman was on his worst day. And so if you just lump all of Les's years into what happened in the last 2 or 3, it's not fair. Can you say he underachieved at times? Yes, okay? Even for the sustained period that they had. But should they have won more? Yes. Were there times where his offensive philosophies held them back? Yes. But were there times where he put together elite teams? Yes, he did. I mean, that 11 team was his. Say whatever you want about how it ended, but that was a huge amount of talent that was on the field and on that coaching staff. And if, a kid at Iowa State doesn't, misses a field goal and Oklahoma State wins, LSU wins the national championship. And up until 19, we're talking about one of the greatest football teams that ever, put on a helmet. But the way it ended, that wasn't possible. History should view Les as a guy who won a bunch of games, and had he evolved, could have won even more. But he was stuck in the old way of doing things, and simply it did not adjust to the modern game, the way the game was going. It's the difference between a good coach. Les was a good coach. You can't look at his record and say Les wasn't a good coach. Was he a great coach? No. Saban's a great coach, right? He took what he had and changed it completely because he had to. Les never could do that. So, I got a hard time with just lumping everybody into they failed type of thing. The next question is, do you think Nick would come back for the 20-year reunion for the 03 team? Well, unless you know something I don't know, he's going to be coaching next year, so no. But the last time they did this, it was the 10-year, the 15-year reunion. Saban sent a video because he was coach. I think they did it on a Friday night. He sent a video. And this is another misconception that I hear a lot, that Saban hates LSU. He doesn't. He's spoken enough, and I actually believe him on this one, that his fondest memories are of LSU, that when he decided he was leaving the NFL, he would have his first choice, had everything been equal and open, would have been to come back to LSU. And, that didn't work out, obviously, but he would have done it. He said more than once that he made a big mistake leaving LSU. He doesn't harbor the bad feelings for LSU that a lot of people at LSU harbor for him. Maybe it's because he's so robotic that he's just too busy to, expend that kind of energy disliking somebody or some place or whatever. But he's never expressed any animosity towards LSU. And I've said this a million times too. My animosity for Alabama is not really directed at him as much as it is the program. And if Nick Saban had left the Miami Dolphins and the Alabama job wasn't open that year, and instead he had gone out to coach at, I don't know, Arizona State, pick a school, okay? Penn State, West Virginia, Arizona State, Illinois, you wouldn't have this kind of animosity towards him. It would be, hey, this guy really put us, on the map, did a lot of great things here, put a lot of things in place that held up a long time after he was gone, and he should be revered for it. But he coaches at Alabama, so screw him, right? That's kind of how it works. Thanks to everybody for participating. For Taylor Sharp and Mario Jerez, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. We're getting into carnival season. Be here before you know it. So when you're talking about getting people together for parades or just holiday gatherings during the carnival season, make it with Supreme Rice. You're down on the parade route, you're serving something. It's cold, gumbo, jambalaya, big pot of red beans. Make it with Supreme Rice. Down in Crowley in southwest Louisiana since the 1930s, Supreme Rice has been grown, milled, and processed here in Louisiana, so you'll know that you're supporting our Louisiana farmers when you buy Supreme Rice. Long grain, medium grain, the brown, or the jasmine Supreme Rice, a perfect complement to any meal. You can get it at all your AG food stores, all your Walmarts, including in the New Orleans market, and your Rouses and your Winn-Dixies. Make it Supreme Rice. You're going to stretch your food dollar and enjoy delicious recipes. Some of the unique ones, go on to the website. It's at SupremeRice.com.